The top 0.1% 20 years ago of households owned $7 trillion. Now they own $25 trillion. We haven't had a 4x increase in our economy. That they took that money has been taken from the wealth of what used to be the middle class.
The fixed pie fallacy just won't frickin' die. That's the problem. And the problem I have with it is that it changes people's minds. They use it to like dictate their thoughts on things. If that person has that, they must have taken it from other people.
In 2020, we had the massive kind of influx of money to kind of stave off economic collapse from the COVID shutdown. All of that wealth, all of those trillions of dollars that were spent, and people were glad to get the checks and everything else, that all flowed directly to the top.
Now that to me is just an obvious statement. If you're giving people money so they can buy stuff from the people that they normally buy stuff from, and they turn around and they buy stuff, where does the money go?
To the people who make stuff.
To people who sell stuff and make stuff. That's where it goes. You guys are normally paying people for things. You don't have any money because we shut you down. We're going to give you money so you can keep paying people for things. We gave you the money. You pay people for things. Oh my God, the money all flowed up to the top. Yes, it goes to people who produce.
The top 1%, their share of wealth absolutely exploded after 2020. And what people need to understand is that when you have wealth transfers like that, they're coming out of your pocket. It's not totally fake imaginary numbers that are expanding the wealth of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. They are taking. We haven't had economic growth. Like Western economies have been growing at roughly 1% for like 2 decades, and the riches, the wealth of the top 1%, they've been growing at 10-20%. So if we're not producing more wealth, but the rich are getting richer, it has to come from somewhere. And that chart that you saw, that's a part of where it's coming from. You are getting poorer, and it's harder for you to afford things like food because you have less wealth. If the rich were getting richer because they were creating innovations that were growing our economy at 5% or 10% a year, then your living standards would stay stable. But they're not. They're taking it from people.
So the argument he just made, and he says something, it gets even dumber in the last like 20 seconds or so, is that this growth of the top 1%, he says the share of net worth for the top 1% exploded after COVID. Which one is the top 1%? It's a lighter blue line. Exploded 29.9% at COVID. And right now it's at 31%. That's not a super exploding share overall, I wouldn't say. Actually, the share of net worth by the bottom 50% has gone from, that's a 25% explosion from 2 to 2.5. That's a big explosion right there. It's actually more than the share for the top 1%.
Top 1% went from 29 to 31, you said?
So 29 to 31, yeah.
So roughly 6.5%?
Something like that, could be.
Big explosion.
He also said there's been no economic growth. He makes the point that our GDP is only a couple percent a year, so there's no way that that's where that money for the top 1% came from. And that's a totally wrong way to do that. GDP is like a measurement of all the goods and services that we produce in the economy, and like net worth is like your value
by the way,
assets determined by the stock market.
But remember, GDP also includes money that the government spends.
It does too.
So.
Yes, it does. They take it from you and then they send it out.
But here's the thing you're missing, Nate, from this discussion here is Elon Musk is a trillionaire.
I'm mad about that.
So
I forgot that I was so mad about that. That's the problem. He says something else which is ridiculous, which is that they are literally taking this. That is the only way that they got this money was from taking it from the middle class and from everyone else. I'll show you on the chart that mathematically isn't even possible.
The top 0.1% 20 years ago of households owned $7 trillion. Now they own $25 trillion.
And most of that is because of the stock market.
And we haven't had a 4x increase in our economy. That they took that money has been taken from the wealth of what used to be the middle class.
Yeah, and let's
for that to be true, just see. So it's
by the way, first of all, he went back 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to 2006. Sagar and Jetty, the other guy on here, he knows. He goes, and that's mostly from the stock market. It is. It's literally mostly from the stock market. And that is often separated from like how our GDP is going or how anything else is going. It's like what people value, one share of ownership in a certain company. That's all it is, literally. But he says they literally took that had to come from somewhere. Meaning, if they went from 7 to 25, that means that they had to take 18 trillion from another group of people who's now 18 trillion poorer than they used to be, right? I mean, that's the only way they would go from 7 to 25 is because they took, he says they literally took that money from you, from the middle class. Well, so they had to have taken 18 trillion from those people over time.
Well, the problem with that, though, is that the bottom and the middle class have also gone up in the last 20 years.
That is like an unfortunate problem for his argument.
What an anomaly there.
If you were to look at the top 1%, now he said top 0.1%, but it's gone up for all of them. And so first off, just making the argument that the top 1% got richer because they took it from the people in the middle class, why doesn't their number just shoot down from there while the top 1% is going up? The number goes up for all of them. Actually, I have it over here where I can tell you the percentage that they went up. Just so we know, I have it indexed to 2006. He said 20 years. And so that starts at 100. And right here at the top, who grew the most? Let's see who grew the most. I bet it's the rich. Top 1%. They're up at 319 now from 100. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good growth. Not too bad, 220%. Who else has grown during that time? The lighter blue line, the bottom 50% is the next highest growth since 2006, up to 287 from 100. Okay, not too bad. Not too shabby. The next one down in growth is the 90 to 90. So the top 10% or the top 9% really up at 276 from 100. And then the 50 to 90th, their growth has been up to 256 from 100. And the CPI from 100 to 163. So this is saying there's been 63% inflation over that time. It's way more than that, just so you know. The fixed pie fallacy just won't freaking die. That's the problem. The mother freaking fixed pie fallacy. And the problem I have with it is that it changes people's minds. They use it to like dictate their thoughts on things. If that person has that, they must have taken it from other people. And I just don't understand how people can look at Elon Musk's net wealth, who during SpaceX IPO went all the way up to 1.5 trillion in net wealth. And he's down like 850 billion now. Do they think that he stole $1 trillion that week for a couple weeks, and then somehow it was all clawed back from him by the workers? They struggled over it. They took it back from him. They took roughly $700 billion back away from him. And then over time, some days he finds a way to steal a 20 billion from there, and then they get it back the next day. That's literally what you have to think to say these things out loud, except you're probably not thinking. That's the main problem.
Well, then they advocate for policies, for voting for people that are going to implement policies that make these economic decisions. And that's the dangerous part.
Yeah, because it's going to actually make life worse for people.
Yeah, for everyone.
That's why you should actually care about it. Like going back and talking about the billionaire, like why would someone making 35 grand care about a billionaire getting taxed more? Your ideas are going to make life worse for everyone. You're not actually solving the problem.
And arguably worst for the poorest people.
Yes. Yeah, because the rich people can find a way to deal with it. Yeah. They'll be fine. You're going to keep making life worse for everyone else.
We heard from Tucker the other day. He's richer than most. Doesn't even didn't go to the grocery store.
No.
Doesn't know the grocery prices.
He loved that grocery store in Russia, though. He went grocery shopping there, and he acted like it was... That's why he was so shocked by the grocery store in Russia. He never goes to a grocery store.
He never goes at all.
She's like, they have carts you can put all your stuff in. Why doesn't America do this? That's why he was so excited. You know?
You put a ruble in there and get your...
like a part Mickey Mouse thing in there. That's really what that was.
You put a ruble and get your card out so that people bring their cards back to get their ruble. Why don't we think of this?
By the way, for the most part, I like Tucker Carlson and his analysis on most things, except for economics. He's really bad at economics.